Well, Norristown didn't take a lot of time at all. It's only 55 seconds to go those 65 yards. Of course, the big play, John McClure to DeAndre Baker, 95 yards down the sideline. Capped off by a 7-yard burst by Lofton Thompson into the end zone. Norristown trailing 13-10 with 11:20 left here in the fourth quarter.
Well, I tell you, McClure really showed a lot of arm strength on that pass. I mean, he was under intense pressure. There were 2 Abington defenders deep in the backfield. He's rolling to his right and just heaves the ball. I mean, I don't even think he could have seen DeAndre Baker with those 2 white jerseys in front of him.
Yeah, McClure looks great on the rollout. The only thing that rolling out does is plays into the strength of Abington, and that is Marcus Hoover coming off the corner. But Norristown realizes they have to go to their strength right now. They can't worry about what Abington's doing. They really have to go right to what they do best.
Morano ready to kick. This time they kick it to the near side. That's James Johnson at the 18-yard line. He looks, picks, he's got some room. He's brought down at about the 36-yard line. In on the tackle was Zitzer along with Desmond Wright. And Walt, this Norristown sideline fired up. These guys are trying to encourage each other, get everybody pumped up.
Yeah, the Norristown players and the Norristown crowd over the years have come to expect the big play. And right now the crowd's trying to fire up that defense. This is the one area where Norristown's lacked a little bit tonight, and they're going to need to step it up. Hopefully those players can get past their exhaustion at this point and really get fired up to stop Abington.
They send Blackstone wide to the left. The other backs are in the eye. Baumer takes the snap. Second back through is James Johnson. He's stopped by Al Zone. Looks like about 4 yards on the carry.
Yeah, Matt Dougherty up front for Abington is really doing the job. That time it was on James Burrell. Just put him on the ground, and you're not seeing any ball carries touched until they're 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. And that's what's wearing out the skill players for Norristown, that being their linebackers and their defensive backs.
This time they bring Blackstone to the short side of the field. 2nd and 6 from the 40-yard line. Same play up the middle, and this time it's good for a first down. Sophomore James Johnson picks up 8 yards on the play, and he is near midfield.
And it's number 72 that time. That's Chris Boyle, who we talked about, this 275-pound offensive lineman for the Ghosts of Abington. And each time they are handling their man quite well, one-on-one, not needing any help. And their backs are just bursting through those holes.
Well, the Norristown defense needs to come up big here. 10-10 to play in this ball game. The Eagles down by 3. Allen wide to the right. The first back through bounces off one tackler. That's Terrell Johnson. He's knocked down, but again, the first tackler was slipped, and is going to be about a 3 to 4 yard gain on the play.
And Zone that time trying to tackle the ball, trying to create that turnover. He realizes that's what Norristown needs, especially as tired as they must be. And as good as Abington is running their offense. Zone's trying to turn that ball over. But Jeff, Norristown still, with just 4 guys up on the defensive line, they're putting Lofton Thompson out to the right, and Abington has almost done no running to the outside tonight. And Zone and Kelly are about 5 yards off in the defensive secondary. So Norristown's going to have to do something about filling those gaps in the defensive line.
2nd and 7. They're in Eagle territory. This time they go to Blackstone, and he bulls ahead close to a first down. And I'll tell you, there's a great surge on that left side of the line there. Blackstone simply follows the big tackle outside, and he picks up, another 5 yards.
Yep,
6 yards.
The pulling guard that time was Joel Kellman, number 70 for Abington. He just came around from his right side, put his shoulder pads right on a body, and as far as the ball carrier got, Kellman was 2 yards in front of him, just driving his man back. Norristown's having a tough time digging in against the size of the Ghosts.
3rd and 1, the ball at the Norristown 43-yard line, 8:41 to play. Abington clinging to a 3-point lead. First down. James Johnson up the middle, good for another 4 yards, and they're inside the 40 of the Eagles.
Well, they have 3 backs. It's keeping them fresh, and they're really not taking any hard hits. They're just running into the Norristown defense, and when a couple bodies get on them, that's when they're going down. So not only do they have 3 guys to rotate and keep them all fresh, they're really not taking any punishing hits right now. And that's what Norristown's going to have to do to create some sort of turnover, some sort of excitement to get their defense juiced up.
Burrell out, Gant in on this play. 1st and 10 again for the Ghosts, the Norristown 39-yard line, let's call it. Oh, there's the play by Will Gant that we've been waiting for. Great penetration, and James Johnson, say hello to Will Gant. That's a nice tackle.
Yeah, that's about the only man we've seen in the Ghost offensive backfield so far. That's his second nice play to penetrate that offensive line, and it's going to require Gant's quickness off the ball to slip in between those massive offensive linemen of the Ghosts.
Clock running with 7:40 to play. That was a loss of a yard. 2nd and 11. Johnson out of the ball game. It'll be Blackstone, Allen, and Terrell Johnson in the backfield. Balmer up the middle. Wow, look at Blackstone go into the secondary, inside the 25-yard line. A big play, 15-yard gain by Blackstone, another 1st down. And I'll tell you, I just don't think Norristown knew who had the ball that time.
No, it's very tough to pick up. I mean, Balmer really disguises it well, and they've got guys going in all directions. The key to it is that they run the exact same plays, exact same formations. They just give a different guy the ball. So it's not like you can tell just based on their formation or their running style who's got it. Again, that time just up the middle, and look at that push.
Wow, I'll tell you, very impressive job by the Ghosts here. I mean, Norristown seems to regain the momentum with the big strike, the quick touchdown. They're at home, the crowd's excited, and Abington is just grinding it out. Timeout called by the Eagles. And these guys are winded, Walt.
Yeah, they need a rest right now, and that's what the timeout's for, is to figure out what they're going to do to stop them, but mainly to get some of these defensive stars a rest. But nothing takes the wind out of your sails after a big score as much as a hard, solid ball-controlled drive that just beats you down. And Abington is really not pulling any punches aside from their couple of trick plays. That was just to get them to keep the ball so they could run their offense the way they're doing right now.
Well, folks, there's 6:49 to go in this ball game. Once again, the score 13-3. The Ghosts up on top. They are at the 20-yard line of Norristown, facing a 2nd and 6. Most certainly, the Eagles have to keep the Ghosts out of the end zone. A field goal puts them up by 6, of course, and the Eagles can claim victory with a touchdown and an extra point. There's still enough time left to go in this ball game, depending upon what we see here in this series. Eagle coaches trying to encourage their troops down on the field.
We should mention, too, this is an Abington team that right now, especially on offense, is dominated by seniors on that line and in that backfield. And that gives them an extra advantage in a game like this where, you come into Roosevelt Field, it's a pretty hostile place to play, and Norristown's always a very, very strong team. But the Ghosts aren't intimidated right now, and that's because they've seen it. They've been in here before, a lot of them as sophomores, and played Norristown for a couple of years now. And they're real confident in what they're doing.
That tight offensive formation that we've seen so much tonight. Allen comes in motion. Balmer's got it. Down the middle, wide open to the tight end, Hoover. Hoover heads for the end zone, and he is stopped by Lamont Thompson. I love it. I can't get it right even when I wait and pause. Lofton Thompson.
But at this point, you do not run a play like that unless you're absolutely sure who's going to be open. You don't want your quarterback taking the chance of a sack and losing the momentum there, or throwing the incomplete pass, or at the very worst, an interception. Abington knew exactly the way that play was going to be run, with Hoover running a little hook, just settling down right there in the zone. And with all the motion, Norristown just has to scramble to cover. And it's the first time we've even seen Hoover catch the ball, even then throw his way as a tight end tonight, and it was successful.
Big play, 1st and goal from the 5. Allen looks, finally steps inside. That ball seemed to be frozen in time, that play did rather.
Well, Jeff, that's the first time we've had to see a Ghost running back actually pick his way. So far, it's just been the play's designed to go here, it's going to go here. You go off right guard, it's going to go off right guard. Left tackle, there's a hole there. Norristown hasn't plugged any of the holes in the Abington playbook. That was the only time that they stacked up the line, made a guy look, and you see what the result is, minimal gain. So that's the key to it, is that Norristown has to plug up some of those holes, and at this point they have to gamble to do it.
Allen might have gotten about a half a yard. The ball's just inside the 5-yard line now. Nearly 5 to go to the end zone. Second down now and goal for the Ghosts. Clock is running with 5:30 to play. There's Blackstone. Touchdown. Use a little tennis terminology. That is game, set, and match in all likelihood for Norristown.
Yeah, well, it was going to require something from Norristown, something extraordinary, a big play, and their biggest playmaker in Lofton Thompson is hurt right now. Their other players are a little bit tired, and it's a real rough night to play. You can't ever discount the fact that they were pushed back to tonight, and what kind of psychological effect that has on them. But it was going to require something special from Norristown, and Abington simply never let them do it, and ran their offense to perfection. And right now with 5:28, they're about to put it out of reach.
McNeil's kick is up. This time it's good. It'll be 20-10, a 10-point Abington lead with 5:28 to play in this ball game. And barring a miracle, Norristown about to go down to defeat at the hands of the Abington Ghosts in their first league contest. And it doesn't get any easier from here, Walt. The Norristown Eagles have a daunting schedule ahead of them this season. We have several more home games for you folks to come out and enjoy. The Eagles will be playing the Bucks of Central Bucks West on Thursday night, September the 12th, I believe it is, 7:30 here at Roosevelt Field. They will also be playing on Saturday, October the 5th against Central Bucks East. And then their final home game is against Harry S. Truman. I believe it's October the 18th, which is a Friday evening at 7:30. So you have several more opportunities to come and see the Eagles play here at home. It's going to be a difficult schedule. There are no real weak spots in the Suburban One League National Conference. Perhaps Ben Salem, perhaps Neshaminy. You'd think Abington. But if that's the case, the Eagles are in real trouble.
It's all a matter of matchups, and how you match up against another team. If a team comes out and all they have to use against Norristown is speed, Norristown will beat them. If a team can come out and be confident in what they're doing and running at Norristown with size, it's going to be a battle. But Norristown always gets stronger as the year goes on, so do not let this game fool you.
That's trouble. Desmond Wright lets the ball run past him. He finally fields it at the 6. He eludes several tacklers, breaks to the outside. He's got one man to beat. Desmond Wright is brought down on the far sideline, and that was an electrifying run. Wright misplays the kickoff. It was a low liner that skipped past him. He didn't pick it up till about the 6-yard line and somehow managed to get it back out to the 40.
And anything can happen on a play like that. So often it ruins the timing of the special teams players from the kicking team and leads to a big return. But you can also have clippings and things like that as the offensive team tries to regroup and block for their returner. So credit Norristown for keeping their heads about them and throwing some good blocks for Desmond Wright to get to where he got.
We marked the ball at the 38-yard line. Wright was either knocked out of bounds or brought down on that far sideline. McClure, the quick drop over the middle to DeAndre Baker, turns, eludes one tackler, tries to cut it back upfield. And I tell you, that DeAndre Baker has some ball carrying ability.
That turn to the outside he's got is just brilliant. Oftentimes you'll see a guy try to turn and he turns early and they'll just drop that ball right there. But DeAndre Baker, very sure-handed when he catches that ball. Now he comes up lame, which would be a huge loss. I mean, Norristown is going to need him to make some of these plays right now.
17 yards on that pass play, it looks like to me, Walt. Puts the ball at the Abington 45. The big enemy right now, though, is the clock. Clock is now stopped at 5 minutes as we wait for Baker to limp off the field. It'll be restarted as soon as he's off. So the Eagles now 1st and 10. McClure going to the air. Senior quarterback John McClure hit Baker on that last play, but he is, as Walt mentioned, out of the ball game. We'll see if it's just for a play. Zitzer, the receiver to the left. I can't make out the receiver to the far side of the field. We'll get that for you in a moment. McClure looks for Zitzer, goes up high, just lays it out there, and that time it was a little stop and go. Zitzer seemed to be trying to draw the corner in, then run past him, and McClure just got it out there a little too soon.
Yeah, but he's got a very strong arm. So often we've seen a receiver streak down that sideline, and the quarterback's thrown it up there, receiver has to come back. There's no doing that with McClure. McClure will lay it out there for you, and if he has the people to run under it, they will do that.
That was Dan Milligan spelling DeAndre Baker, but Baker is right back into the ball game. And it's 2nd and 10 for the Eagles, 4:37 to play as they trail the Ghosts by 10. Zitzer and Baker to the near side. Back lined up in the slot. McClure goes back. Pressure. McClure gets it up. Baker's open. Oh, man. That's a shame. DeAndre Baker 3 steps behind the defense, and he just got turned around. Couldn't quite reel that one in.
Yeah, he was wide open and really had nobody in front of him and stopping his path to the end zone. With John McClure, looks like you just have to turn and keep running because John McClure will lay it out there for you. And he will put it out there on a line. But Baker trying to turn around and control that ball may just turned a little too early and then tried to jump up and get it just off his fingertips.
Baker heads up play. He's got some strings loose there on his equipment, and he calls the official, asks for a timeout, stops the clock while he repairs that. Also allows him to get back to the huddle.
But I think as the season goes on, you're going to see Norristown relying more and more on McClure's ability to roll out and throw well to his receivers. Not only is it effective offensively for Norristown in picking up yardage, but it spreads out the defense for some of their running game.
3rd and 10. They go for the screen. It's dropped. Lofton Thompson unable to hold that ball. That'll be an incomplete pass. 4th and 10 now. 4:24 to play.
And that was a screen with a completely open window because Thompson had nobody in front of him out there blocking for him. It looks like when Norristown spreads out to run these plays, they try to run that screen, but everybody's spread out wide. And their 5 linemen certainly have a tough enough time just holding the men off to give McClure some time to throw that ball. It would have been all Thompson, but he dropped it.
Well, we've seen Abington convert on 4th down 3 times this evening. This will be the Eagles' first crack at it. McClure gets some pressure. He's got to get it away. He lofts it up there. Baker's there. It's intercepted. That is an intercepted pass, a fine play by the Abington defense. They knew who McClure was going to go to. And on the interception, that's number 40, Ashley Baccaro.
And Baccaro hasn't been needed too much. In the running game of Norristown, the defensive line for Abington's been stopping them, and Norristown's been throwing out wide and allowing the Abington corners to do the defensive work. But that time, Baccaro, knowing that Norristown had to throw the ball, was free to roam, and that's why you put that one safety back there, and that's so he can roam around and make those plays. John McClure, not an easy task with Marcus Hoover down at his feet, and threw the ball with everything he could. We mentioned how difficult it is to roll left and throw that pass. And that time just a tiny bit underthrown, and Baccaro made the nice play to come over for the pick.
Well, that seals the victory for the Ghosts. They're going to just run this ball up the middle, I'm sure. And there it is to Allen off the left side. And this is a matter of playing out the clock here. The Ghosts with a 10-point lead have the ball at their own 26-yard line. 1 yard on the carry brings up 2nd and 9.
Jeff, this is hard to believe that this is Abington's first game of the year. I mean, this offense is just clicking, working to perfection. I mean, it looks like that there's not even a defense out there. Norristown's defense is certainly no slouch. I mean, these are a lot of experienced players out there and a lot of guys who are experienced in busting up plays, but Abington doing anything they want to right now.
Big hole for James Johnson. He is going to go. Look at Baker rip him down from behind, though. I'll tell you, that sophomore is getting some numbers tonight. Number 34, James Johnson, takes it a long way, and it's DeAndre Baker who rips him down, and Baker is down on the field, and he's hurt.
Well, that's the last thing Abington opponents need to see, and that's a 4th back and a guy who may have the most speed of them all. It's a good thing Baker's got the speed he's got just to run him down, but that's only a formality right now. It's pretty much for pride, and you hope nobody gets hurt. But
well, I'll
Baker,
tell you, at this stage of this game, you'd hate to see that play knock DeAndre Baker out of the lineup for a game. Roger Grove out checking on Baker, being attended to now by the trainer. 3:25 left to play in this ball game, and the Eagles are about to drop to 1-1 for the season, 0-1 in Suburban One League National Conference play, and that's going to make for a long year.
Well, Jeff, we've seen in recent years some teams that you really never mentioned when you talked about football come up and surprise some people, and I think that the pack is really coming up to meet the elite this year. Central Bucks West took a little bit of a jump forward again this year, whereas they almost came back to the pack last year. Took a surprising loss to North Penn, and then was beaten by Central Bucks East. So, but they're right back on top this year. Central Bucks East strong as ever, and there's good news as Baker walks off. Can't even detect any limp there, so they'll probably rest him for this game, but certainly looks like he can come back Thursday night against the Bucks. But as I was saying, the pack is really coming up, and these teams who used to be at the top all the time, mainly Central Bucks West and Norristown, are fighting just to keep their heads above water in this division, let alone win it.
So 1st and 10, a flag flies after that long delay. We can't even get the snap off. This may go down as the world's longest game. I'm setting several records so far. Let's see, most measurements. Most kicks out of bounds.
And Jeff, this year the PIAA rules that the clock does not start after penalties and other changes of possession, such as turnovers and kicks, until the snap of the ball. So that also leads to a little bit of the extension of the game. Does allow you to get a few more snaps in, but this time that's not what Abington wants.
So Abington moves back 5 yards. They'll have 1st and 15 from the Norristown 45. There's Johnson again. He is wrapped up by Al Zone. Will Gann in there to help out. So good pursuit that time by the Eagles. Crowd starting to thin here a little bit at Roosevelt Field as the outcome is fairly well established here. Once again, we want to remind you that the Norristown Area School District has brought you this broadcast. We want to thank Tony Koya, Director of Communications, for his production and direction tonight. We also want to thank Garrett Hickman for his very able camera work. We appreciate all his hard work this evening. And, of course, we want to thank Greg Fry for keeping our statistics this evening. Johnson wrapped up in the backfield. That time for the Eagles, player rather new to the lineup, number 32, John Johnson.
So at this point in the game, it becomes a little bit of an audition. I think Norristown's finding out that they need to get more people into that rotation, or else they're really going to have a tough time this year in keeping their players fresh and strong for the fourth quarter. So I think right now some players are getting a little bit of an audition time. Also Dan Milligan out there on defense, number 24. So these are players you may see down the line late this year as Norristown tries to keep their starters and their stars fresh.
1:22 to play in the ball game. Oh, wow. They hand it off inside to Blackstone. He breaks through for a first down. I tell you what, that's a slap in the face. I don't like that call late in the game. I mean, I know Doug Moister's a good coach, but, you know, you've got this game locked up. You've got a minute to play. All you have to do is snap the ball twice, and he does a little dipsy-do, goes for the first down, has it down to the Eagle 30-yard line.
Well, if it was out of character for their offense, I would agree with you, Jeff. But I think it's just part of their offense, and I think right now he doesn't see any reason to diverge from the offense he's been running successfully all night.
Well, I disagree. I don't think that's a call you make with a minute to play with a 10-point lead when all you have to do is snap the ball again and the game's over. Now he's calling timeout. Explain that to me. And we're going to take a timeout to change some videotape for you folks. We'll be back up in just a moment with the conclusion of this ball game.